What is up, DTube, Steam blockchain? So today I want to talk about that near zero marginal cost will come to the crypto blockchain space as well. And maybe you've heard this term in the past, but in some ways it means you maybe heard it in the capitalist system. I mean, if you look at how capitalism works, some company or someone is offering a service, they're taking a small cut, and then they can basically reinvest that profit or take out the salary. Okay, but then when the software and hardware is becoming more intelligent all the time, becoming better, that basically means that eventually you move into this space where a person starts to think, wait a sec, it's so easy for me now to make this myself, so maybe I don't need to buy something, right? It's like capitalism becomes so effective that it makes it so a person already has all they need, and if they need something, they can produce it themselves. This is going to happen with green electricity. It happens with people creating their own media. They don't feel the need as much to consume it at other places, because people creating their own videos or photos or art or music or something, they're sharing their resources, they're sharing their energy. This basically makes it so eventually people have all they need and they don't feel that much need to buy something. So you the profit thing becomes obsolete, not because capitalism is not successful, but because it's so successful at being productive that you get this near zero marginal cost, where it costs very, very little to do something or to reward something. And what has this have to do with the crypto blockchain space? Well, if you really look at it, low prices then, for example, of a token, especially in something like when you're trying to do something like Steam blockchain, like a social media plus blockchain, like low prices of a token, in many ways that's actually good, because it's like then you go down to near zero marginal cost, where if you really look at pieces of content and how much rewards they're getting, I mean, clearly if you want success, clearly you want a system where you have to pay very little to create many workers. So if you, for example, can pay a worker 1 cent and they're doing a lot of stuff and they feel greatly rewarded, I mean, clearly that's a good system, right? Because the way it's then supposed to work is that eventually you have many people that give you 1 cent, and that adds up quite fast. Just to give you some perspective, on YouTube, if you have 100 viewers, 100 clicks, you are getting 5 cents. So YouTube already have a form of near zero marginal cost working, and they're sharing around 45%, I think, with video creators, and it actually works. Like, it actually works. So just because you have volume, you have a lot of people using something at close to near zero marginal cost. So clearly that's what's going to happen with the crypto blockchain space as well, that these big rewards may not be needed, because if a person, for example, a person that rewards stuff, clearly they want to do it for the cheapest price possible, and cheap tokens basically means so a lot of people can get inside of a system quite easy, and people just feel more abundant also. And this is kind of fun with exponential technology, because if you just look at it logically, like from a regular job, let's say you get like $50 in a day, but then that's going to be taxed. So like 50% goes away quite fast. I think it's even like 60 or 70%, because you have the tax man, you have the company you're working for, they have to pay tax also, and then your own tax, and it really adds up to around maybe 60 or 70%. So a lot of that $50 is not really $50. It's probably more like $20 or $25. And then you also have that if you want to send it around to people, that's going to cost you another couple of dollars. So maybe it actually just is $20. So you have all these things that really adds up, and then you realize it's not really that much, those $50 versus, let's say, $3 of rewards of something you produced at near zero marginal cost, like with Steam blockchain or stuff like that. If you get $3, I mean, that's probably more like 10 or 15 or way above probably $20 in the lifetime, because maybe someone converts it to Bitcoin or some real futuristic currency. So that $3 actually probably in the long term has way more value, has way more reach than the $20-25 that you eventually would get inside of a centralized bank account. So it's really interesting how even 1 cent, let's say you get 1 cent reward from one person, but let's say some token is like super low in price. That basically means way more people can get involved, millions, billions eventually, when you can scale these systems. You can't do it right now because they're not ready for it. But when you can, a lot of those 1 cent earnings, a lot of that value is being produced at near zero marginal cost, but it has massive impact because it puts people to work, or just it makes people look at stuff in different ways, where they're seeing, oh, this is quite lucrative. I enjoy these sort of systems. I see how it's the future. I see they're working, and at scale, it really makes sense. Like YouTube got it to work. Like, you just need to have easy systems that can basically onboard people and educate people, and eventually you get the ball rolling, because basically you have when you get the ball rolling, and if it's cheap to get involved, then of course the rewards are going to be near zero marginal cost, because you want it to be a curator want it to be so they have to spend the least amount of value to get some outcome. But many of them are probably very generous, so they're going to give you a higher reward because people are kind of kind. So it's very interesting, that thing where if you really look at it logically, it doesn't really make any sense to burn $1,000 on some simple post. They probably didn't take that level of effort to create, right? So at the beginning of a lot of these blockchains, everything's super overpriced, super overpriced. It doesn't really make any sense. Then sort of reality starts to kick in, and people sort of get confused. But then you realize, wait a sec, this is actually better for all. If it's super cheap for a curator, they're gonna keep curating because it doesn't really cost them anything. But the key thing is it can get more people inside the game, loving the game, and growing slowly and more at a steady rate eventually. Because, for example, with YouTube, that has been existent for 15 years now, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less, but around that, content creators have a very steady rate of passive income, and it's the passive income that really makes it worth it to people to keep creating, keep consuming, and everything. So at all sides, people want the cheapest, right? People want the cheapest. If you really look at it, a low cost token, it's you can get involved. It makes more sense to get involved. The lower the something value goes. And I'm not a financial advisor, but I mean, if you really just look at it, it's and curators, they don't want to pay massive to reward stuff. So a lot of the confusion has happened because it hasn't really made sense. For example, a lot of curators hasn't really felt that they got so much reward from a post with 50 words or just a photo. They didn't really have a massive incentive to sort of curate that. But with video, we sort of see that it becomes more fair for everyone. because it's massive value in terms of video. You get massive information, and the curators like it, right? So the ball is basically rolling. The ball is rolling, and that is fascinating to see. So it's really going to be near zero marginal cost, and it's quite funny when people talk about millions or billions or trillions. I mean, even if we talk about that, and we're probably going to move up to those things, it's just it's just some imagination in a person's head. It doesn't really mean anything. It's like, and I have lived in a pretty nice apartment and stuff like that, and what you realize is it doesn't really make that much difference in the modern age when everything's becoming dematerialized, and when we're using a smartphone, and that's the whole life of a person, and eventually it's going to be the virtual reality. They're going to put up some virtual reality screen and they're going to walk around with that. They can basically live on 10m2, 10 square meters. They don't even need that much space, and they will still have the same kind of life in many ways. So people usually many ways miss out on that people can do more with less, right? Like when you have bought a smartphone, it's going to work 2 to 3 years and you can produce a lot of value with it. It's a content generator machine at near zero marginal cost. So that's going to really change a lot of stuff. In the past, for example, one of the reasons why I think people spit out a lot of these big values, like thousands or millions or trillions or billions, is because in some way they sort of feel scarcity. They sort of feel scarcity, that you need a lot of value, that value is scarce, and that's why people kind of throw out these numbers. But in this exponential industry, it's small value has massive value in the long term, and that it goes so much further than in the past, where you had to use big numbers for everything. Yeah, that's what I want to talk a little bit about today. It's gonna come hard at this industry, and but massive amount of people eventually levels stuff out eventually, and eventually people just have the tokens, and they can make their own value, right? So not only will they be able to create their own electricity, they can print their own value as well. So they are like a self-sustaining system, kind of like the human body is working in many ways. So yeah, it's kind of cool, 3D printing and everything. People can create their own software, their own hardware, their own money. It's kind of cool. But then again, we get back to that thing that a lot of people feel abundant, and then they give a little bit extra sometimes. That's kind of cool. Yeah, and that's the same thing with the content creators. When they get abundance, they produce abundance to other people. So you can get this positive feedback loop, and that is basically what society is in and has been for the last couple of 100 years. So yeah, I mean, that's what I want to talk a little bit about today. Hopefully you enjoyed. Have an awesome day, DTube and the Steam blockchain. Bye-bye.